All right, what's going on, everyone? What's going on? What's going on? It's time for me to give you another update on the situation. I want to clear things up and give you a full 100% update on the situation. Because if you guys remember, we've been talking about my favorite band. We've been talking about Black Label Society, and we talked a little bit about how again, it wasn't their mistake. It was just a bit of a mess up on the company that does their merchandise and products and shipments and stuff like that. And so I wanted to update you guys on the situation. It does look like YouTube is playing around with the views to get a reaction. So again, there's blatantly people in here. Obviously we saw somebody in here earlier, but the average view duration of this stream is the exact length of the stream. So that means that basically YouTube is not counting any views at this point. Is sort of kind of like BSing the watch time hours and the amount of time that anybody is watching the stream right now. So this is just what I've learned about this. There was a huge period of time where this was going on for like a year, and I was sort of documenting the fact that basically for a half an hour to an hour into the stream, I would sit here and the average view duration was just the exact length of the stream. And then about an hour, half hour to an hour and a half into the stream, all of a sudden, instantly there's all these concurrents in the stream and stuff like that. And it's all being basically they start counting it then, and they don't catch up what they've missed, what they clearly weren't counting for X amount of time. So we are live, and obviously you guys already saw a viewer on here, but it says 0 views, 0 concurrence for my graph. Again, they're not counting the person that was already in here. And again, the average view duration is the exact length of the stream. So that means, again, that they're not, counting any trending, any views whatsoever. It's literally just following, the average view duration is just following the exact length, the exact duration of the stream. So that again, that means that it's not counting the proper duration of when people are coming in and out of the stream watching. Thus, just wrong. And as I started talking about this just now, I saw again another concurrent slip in here and then leave before I sat here and refreshed the concurrent counter for you guys to see it. So they slipped in and out before it counted. So basically, this scammer is just masquerading and messing around with all the views and stuff like that. And again, it's just been going on for a long time. And YouTube is sitting here and using this as an excuse to hide views and stuff like that. So, you know what I mean? It literally just, when I see the average view duration, the exact length of the stream like it is now, again, the stream has been going for 7 minutes. The average view duration is exactly 7 minutes. 7 minutes, 3 seconds. Literally no views are being counted. Average view durations are the exact length of the stream, and they are just lying. They are not counting anything. Now the average view duration has updated to 7 minutes and 33 seconds. And the stream is at 7 minutes and 50 seconds. Again, literally, that's what this person is doing. They are just calculating that delay so that they can sit here and cause a problem for the stream. That's all they're doing. And they're hiding people's concurrence to sit here and calculate that delay so they can sit here and endlessly cause a problem. That's all they're doing. So again, the average view duration is now exactly 8 minutes and 3 seconds. Nothing has changed. They're just not counting anything for this stream. So I'm just throwing that out there, guys, that when you see that, that is this Russian meddling that we've talked about, where YouTube is allowing the Russians and allowing the Trump administration to sit here and just kind of fuck around with people that, you know, sit here and don't like them and talk about them and stuff like that. So it's you know, it's literally just because they know that certain people are watching that might be Trump voters or something like that. So they want to manipulate you to dislike me. They are going to sit here and they are going to lie and fudge this shit like fucking crazy until you know, sit here and dislike the stream or you know, do something where, you know, it's adverse to the reaction, you know, like essentially causing the reaction they want. Again, the stream is just past 9 minutes now, not almost 9.5 minutes, and the average view duration is around the same thing. It's just past 9 minutes. So again, literally, we're just confirming that YouTube is doing this, and what I'll do is what I'll probably do is I'll just restart the stream over and 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 over, and we'll just sit here and we'll make like a ton of streams and then talk about how long it takes YouTube to process them. Because again, YouTube needs a lot of time to process these streams. It's just a checkbox. But you know, if they're going to do this and cause a problem for my stream, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to show you guys exactly what they're doing. Because it's blatantly obvious that they're sitting here and doing this because they know what I'm going to talk about on this stream. And they know I'm going to clear some things up. And so they don't want any trending for this. They don't want anybody to see this. If you remember the stream where I cleared it up and went through the order and it was a positive stream, the stream that we talked about, Black Label Society, and we talked about the order and the stuff that we got, very low view count. I think probably the lowest view count of any of my streams recently. And so you see that trending where, you know, when we have a positive moment and something good is happening where the stream would trend and stuff like that, you know, it's good content. You know, literally they literally just remove trending views and all that from it, and then you know, again, throw all these views and trending and stuff at the stream when we're yelling at the camera, we're having a reaction to what the person is doing, the scammer is doing, stuff like that. And so it's important to remember that that's why we're doing this. You know, when I have a reaction and stuff like that, specific with people too, that's why I'm doing that, because you know, again, I'm having that reaction because you know, this is kind of what YouTube has been doing, where they're only going to show people the stream when I have an adverse reaction or you know, I'm calling them out or something like that. So the whole point is that you're supposed to rationalize that they didn't show you the stream all the time to talk good about you or something like that. But, you know, like the one time I would have something to call out or you know, like, you know, I'm just exaggerating or you know, like something like that. You know, they're really going to promote that. They're going to make sure everybody sees it. Including probably the person that you're talking about. So it's important to remember that that's why we're doing this, and that I have been showing things to my lawyer and getting my lawyer involved in, you know, basically trying to, you know, determine exactly, you know, the full extent of the outcome here. But, you know, we've already confirmed that YouTube is doing this on a mass scale to like a lot of people. They're halting view progress on entire channels and stuff like that. You know, people that would otherwise get a lot of subscribers or a lot of views. They're not, they're just halting the view progress. So it's the sort of thing where if they know that you're somebody they can make a ton of money off of you, you're for tons of ads, you're for all this ridiculous stuff where they can make crap loads of money off of you, you will be promoted. Oh, and again, like if you have like this like really short content, tons of really short content, and you're not doing long form content and stuff like that, they're gonna do that. But it's important to remember that YouTube sat here and got involved with some pretty serious stuff and was spying on people and has been doing this for a long time. And right as I said that, somebody liked the stream. So that is absolute confirmation. Again, I'm literally sitting here this whole time staring at the concurrent view counter, and it says 0, and then I watch as more likes start being counted. Again, that's your proof. People have been in the stream the entire time. Like literally you see the instant the like counts. Oh, the like counts before the view? Yeah, okay. And then the person's hitting the laugh emoji. You get what I'm saying? So the average view duration is still the exact same length of the stream. They are not counting any views whatsoever. Again, the average view duration is still 14 minutes and 30 seconds-ish, somewhere around there. They are not counting any views. YouTube literally just cannot do a single thing right. They really just can't do anything right. Anything, really. Again, that was my whole point, was just that they just could never do anything right. And when you try to tell them about it, nah, it's your fault. And they don't communicate. So, the average view duration still has not been fixed. It's still the exact same length of the stream. They're not counting the views. Completely absurd. I mean, literally, it's just a blatant lie. So, basically, what YouTube is doing is they're lying until they've determined what you're going to talk about. And again, this is free speech issues. If they would have policies against certain things and want to say don't talk about these subjects or something like that, then fine. But there's no policies about, like, oh, you just can't talk about this or this. Yeah, I mean, literally, it's just completely absurd. It's like you're a child sitting here just making up rules as you go along. So, like, the point is, this is what fascism looks like. Like, it's literally controlling free speech behind the scenes, where you're literally manipulating and forcing this company to, just because I dislike Trump, and I've been talking about Trump and literally can't fucking stand the guy since forever. They've been sitting here attacking me like nonstop. And again, we're talking about somebody that's been stalking me, doxing my address and stuff like that, like blatantly has this information. So, and YouTube just didn't do anything about this. So it's important to remember that this has been going on for a couple years now, okay? But anyway, let me give you an update on this, regardless, because again, YouTube is just literally, they just don't do anything right. So, as far as the Black Label Society thing is concerned, well, I placed my order. Remember, you guys, I went through it. I was happy with it. It was a good order and stuff like that. Except, again, we were missing something. And again, this is the merchandise company. It wasn't on Black Label Society. It was on the merchandise company. I was missing something. Well, today, that thing came. Yeah. Now, it was on the pack slip in the box, so they should have came. But I think they realized it and corrected it and sent it out. Now you know why I was pissed. 'Cause that's a cool fucking poster. Look at that shit. That's awesome. How cool is that? And don't listen to him. He had to trim his beard. It wasn't by choice, but he had to do it once. He probably doesn't remember. He probably doesn't remember. He probably doesn't. He never does. He only did it once, and it's because he had to. Wasn't. It was doctor's orders. One time. This is such a cool ass poster. Why is that confetti? Why is that confetti? If doctor's orders say one time you gotta trim your beard, you gotta fucking do it. That's ridiculous. Why is that confetti? Shut the fuck up. That's so cool. If you want to see Zach without a beard, go back to the days, No More Tours tour, the Ozzy tour back in the early 90s. The whole thing, if you go watch the concerts, the No More Tours tour, the Live and Loud concert, literally clean shaved the whole time. I mean, the dude's young there, but, you know, he's younger than me there. But he's clean shaven the whole time. So yeah, really cool poster. I appreciate them sending it. So let's talk about something else too. We're gonna talk a little bit. And like I said, this is probably the real reason why they were doing this. Because they all want us to quarrel. Okay? They do. I've said this before. So some of these things are about exacerbating common problems in society. Okay? And some of this stuff we as adults can get over on our own, okay? So I know I've talked about this before, but let's talk about it a little bit more in depth and do what we normally do here a little bit. So, let's do that. I said, it's crazy how adult men in the United States still have problems with thinking things like certain colors are, quote, gay. Imagine it. The way the light reflects off of an object somehow has anything to do with homosexuality at all. Basically, the color makes them uncomfortable. When a guy likes pink or purple specifically, so therefore they actually claim it's gay. Some say it as a joke. Some say it as a joke, and then the ones with the problem actually think the way light reflects off of things is actually has anything to do with sexual preference in humans. They actually do. They actually think this just because some say it is a joke, and then the extremists go, "Oh, well, yeah, yeah. Why do they always like pink and purple? They do always like that. Don't stop stereotyping people." So that's what I said. And then here's the response.
Yeah, it is absurd. A colour is just a colour. It has no built-in connection to sexuality, masculinity, or femininity. What people are reacting to is not light wavelengths, it is social conditioning. They were taught that certain colours are for women, and then they confuse breaking that rule with somehow saying something about a man's identity or sexual orientation. A lot of that comes from fragile ideas about masculinity. For some men, anything associated with softness, beauty, playfulness, or femininity feels threatening, so they mock it. Calling pink or purple gay is usually less about the colour and more about policing other men. The ironic part is that these rules are completely made up. Different cultures and different time periods have treated colours differently, so acting like pink has some natural meaning is nonsense. Even when people say it as a joke, the joke usually depends on the same old idea that being gay is something to mock or that men should avoid anything coded feminine. That is why it still feels gross even when someone tries to pass it off as harmless. You are basically pointing at the core stupidity of it. How light reflects off fabric, paint, or plastic has nothing to do with who someone is attracted to. That connection exists only in people's heads.
I love how it pointed out that it does have a core stupidity surrounding it. Like, literally, this is the essence of stupidity. This stuff. And I'm trying to tell you guys this. Like, this is what stupidity is. It literally, like, the most logical thing, you know, a computer here, and it's like, yep, you're basically pointing out the core stupidity of it. Alright. But then, there's the other extreme that can create, there's the other extreme that can create that too. For example, if someone goes out of their way to claim to be offended by something, they can likewise turn off, like a TV show, movie, streamer, comedian, etc. Then I feel that the person is being, that this person is being the actual bully there, because they can just turn it off and understand that the person is saying it just to making humor, and choose just not to agree with it, but they don't have to attack or claim to be offended by something they can't actually harm them.
I get the point you're making. Sometimes people do move past "I don't like this" into trying to control everyone else's choices, and that can become its own kind of aggression. But I would separate a few things. Being offended by something is not, by itself, bullying. People are allowed to say, "That joke is mean, that show is obnoxious," or "I think this comedian punches down." That is also them using speech. The line gets crossed when it turns into harassment, dogpiling, threats, or demands that nobody else be allowed to watch it. At the same time, just turn it off is not always a complete answer either. People often criticize media because culture affects how groups are treated in real life. So someone can reasonably argue that a joke normalizes contempt, even if it does not physically harm them in that exact moment. So there are really two extremes that both get ugly. One side says cruel or lazy things, then hides behind "it's just a joke." The other side acts like disliking a joke gives them the right to attack people personally or police everyone down. The healthier middle is criticize freely, watch freely, avoid what you dislike, and don't try to ruin people over every dumb comment. Humor should be allowed, and criticism of humor should also be allowed. The problem is when either side turns it into moral domination. What usually matters most is pattern and intent. A one-off dumb joke is different from non-stop contempt disguised as comedy, and a viewer saying, "That sucked," is different from a mob trying to destroy someone. So I'd put it this way. Being offended does not make someone a bully, but weaponizing offense absolutely can. And saying it's just humor does not automatically make something harmless either.
People that then choose to harm these groups and act on what they see and hear, especially a joke, this means those people have that same problem. They will always find an excuse to harm if they are like this in the first place. So regardless of the truth of what you are talking about, you should never blame the hate on the person who is just trying to make people laugh, or the thing that is meant as a person's way of expression, and not as an attack on another person. Especially, like I said, when this isn't even in person and the people can just turn it off.
I see your distinction. You are saying the responsibility belongs with the person who chooses to do harm, not with a comedian, creator, or performer whose intent was humor or expression. On that point, I agree that the person who actually commits harassment or violence is responsible for their own actions. A viewer does not become a puppet just because they heard a joke. Where I would still draw a line is this. Intent matters, but impact and patterns still matter too. Not because the comedian is to blame for every bad actor, but because I was joking does not automatically settle the question of whether something is thoughtful, cruel, lazy, or worth criticizing. So I would put it like this. A person choosing to harm others is at fault for that harm. They cannot dump that blame onto a movie, joke, streamer, or song. A creator making a joke is not automatically attacking anyone, and people should not pretend all edgy or offensive humor is equivalent to abuse. People also still have a right to say, "I think this joke is trash," or "this content is mean-spirited," without that being censorship. The real problem starts when criticism becomes punishment, harassment, or a demand that nobody else is allowed to hear the thing. Your core point is strong. Bad people do not need much of an excuse. If they latch onto a joker's cover, that says a lot more about them than about the joke. Blaming all downstream wrongdoing on the person trying to entertain people can become dishonest and unfair. So the cleanest version is, responsibility for evil belongs to the person doing evil. Criticism of art is fine. Personal destruction campaigns over offense are not.
Yeah. You become that person that you claim that you're offended by when you project your problems and hate onto them. You just turn it off. Okay, I'm not denying that you got some sort of problem and that watching this thing or hearing the F word or something like that triggers that problem in your head. Then don't watch that thing. Turn it off. And if likewise it was a mistake, and you know, again, you know this is sort of like an issue where, like, you know, it's just sort of kind of your thing and you got to deal with that, turn it off. You know, again, if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. You accidentally heard that. Try to separate yourself from it and you know, again, that's what I'm talking about here. So on to this next thing that I said here. Or maybe someone is also speaking their mind in a vlog or a podcast or a song, and this isn't even directed at anyone. If anything, you should have the intelligence to understand that they are going through something and trying to learn from it and let it help you instead of lashing out when really that would just be completely misplaced. And you can learn from their from it too. Like, that's what I'm saying.
That can be true too. Sometimes a person is not attacking anyone at all. They are venting, processing pain, being messy in public, or turning their experience into art or commentary. In those cases, the most mature response often is to recognize this is coming from something, instead of instantly treating it like a personal assault. A lot of people hear everything through the filter of themselves. So instead of asking, what is this person trying to express? They jump straight to, how can I frame this as about me or my group? That can absolutely lead to misplaced outrage. At the same time, people are still allowed to dislike what they hear or think it is unfair. But I agree with your main point. The first instinct should not always be punishment or condemnation. Sometimes the more intelligent response is curiosity, context, and restraint, especially when it is a vlog, podcast, or song that nobody is forced to consume. There is a strong argument for just stepping away if it is not for you. Not every uncomfortable expression is an attack. Sometimes it's just a person being human in a way that is rough, imperfect, or emotionally raw. What you are defending, really, is the idea that expression should not automatically be treated as aggression. That is a fair point.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Have some awareness about yourself and the people around you, that sort of thing. It's just, if you know that you, like I've said before about certain types of music and movies and stuff like that, if this bothers you and you don't find it interesting, it's not interesting, it just bothers you, probably watch something else. Probably watch more comedies or something like that. I'm not saying don't ever try it. I'm just saying if it bothers you, why insult that thing? And you know what I mean? Some other people find it interesting, and likewise this inspires people to be detectives or artists themselves or something like that. And so, just because somebody has a problem, and it does bother them, it doesn't mean that somebody shouldn't do that thing. It just means that maybe you shouldn't do that thing. Oh, for sure, I respect anyone's decision to not care for something, but again, if you don't care for it, why not just wish the person well, turn it off, instead of claiming it affected you? Because I feel like that attitude towards it is just a way for people to have a scapegoat for their problems. Where they have an issue and they're using what's supposedly offending them as a scapegoat for their problems. You know what I mean? Instead of just turning it off, they're using sort of that as a scapegoat.
I think that does happen sometimes. For some people, saying this harmed me can become a way to externalize their own frustration, emptiness, or anger. Instead of just saying I didn't like this and moving on, they turn it into a moral drama. That can absolutely become a scapegoat pattern. There is a big difference between I do not enjoy this, so I'm turning it off, and this affected me, therefore someone must be blamed. The first is grounded. The second can become self-centered very fast, especially when the content was optional and not directed at them personally. That said, not everyone who says something affected them is faking or scapegoating. Sometimes people really are touched, annoyed, or upset by what they consume. The part you are reacting to is when they elevate that feeling into a public accusation or use it to justify attacking the speaker. That is where it starts to look less like honest reaction and more like displaced resentment. So your point makes sense. In many cases, a healthier response would be, "This is not for me. I hope they're okay, moving on." That shows proportion. It also avoids turning every negative feeling into a social weapon. What you seem to be criticizing is not disagreement itself, but the habit of converting personal discomfort into blame. That is a real habit, and yes, it can become a convenient place for people to dump their own unresolved issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now again, I'm gonna sort of like kind of corrected it a little bit here, but only a little bit. I'm just gonna say at no point am I saying people aren't affected by it. I'm just saying, you know what I mean, because I'm not saying that. Obviously, I've sort of stated that already. I'm just stating that it's misplaced to blame a digital medium. Just turn it off and watch Property Brothers or something. That's what I said.
That is a fairer way to put it. A person can be affected by something and still be wrong about what they blame. Feeling upset does not automatically mean the podcast, vlog, or song wronged them in some meaningful sense. Sometimes it just means they consumed something that hit a nerve. And with optional digital media, your point gets stronger. There is usually a clear exit. Close it, skip it, mute it, unsubscribe, watch something else. You do not have to turn every bad reaction into an indictment of the creator. So yes, I was affected by this, and this thing is to blame, are not the same claim. That distinction matters. Your Property Brothers line gets at the proportional response. Not everything needs to become a public grievance. Sometimes the mature move really is just, not for me, and then go watch Drywall and Backsplash Diplomacy instead.
What the? Plus, that's just a really good and non-offensive show that's actually funny at times.
Yeah, exactly. Property Brothers is a pretty safe example of something easy to put on without feeling dragged into culture war nonsense. It is low stakes, familiar, and accidentally funny in that very specific Home Reno way. That is kind of your whole point in miniature. People usually have options. If something online feels irritating, hostile, or just not for them, there are plenty of harmless alternatives that do not require turning it into a personal or moral crisis. Sometimes the healthiest response really is just, this isn't my thing, next.
Yeah. And, again, if you haven't seen that show, don't judge it too harshly, because it's actually extremely entertaining show. It's actually really good. So then I said, yeah, exactly. If my streams are so offensive, then why are you even watching them? They clearly aren't for you. They are clearly for the people that would find it funny or relatable.
That is a reasonable stance. If your streams are clearly built around a certain tone, humor, or way of talking, then people who hate that style do have an obvious option. Leave. Not every piece of content is made for every person. What matters is that there is a difference between, I do not like this, so I won't watch, and I do not like this, so you should not be allowed to do it. The first is normal. The second is where people start overreaching. At the same time, viewers are still free to criticize what they saw. But criticism is one thing. Acting like they were helplessly victimized by content they voluntarily kept consuming is another. So your point lands. If someone keeps tuning into something they already know is not for them, then at some point they are participating in their own frustration. If your audience finds it funny or relatable, that is the audience it is for. Everyone else can move on.
Yeah. Then I said, I think people try to use this as a scam.
Sometimes, yes. Some people do seem to use offense as leverage for attention, social power, moral status, money, or control. In that sense, it can become scam-like, because the goal is not honest hurt or good faith criticism. The goal is to extract something from the situation. That said, I would be careful with the word scam as a blanket rule. Some people are genuinely bothered, but there definitely are cases where outrage feels performative, opportunistic, or manipulative. What you seem to mean is, they act like they were uniquely harmed by something optional, then use that claim to pressure, shame, punish, or rally people, and the whole thing starts looking less like sincerity and more like a hustle. That can happen. Especially online, outrage can function like currency. A more precise way to say it might be, some people weaponize offense. That gets at your point, without claiming every complaint is fake. And when content is clearly voluntary to watch, your argument gets stronger. If someone keeps choosing to consume something they hate, then tries to turn that into a case against the creator, it can absolutely feel manipulative rather than genuine.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never harm me.
There is wisdom in that phrase. The strongest version of it is not literally that words have zero effect. It is that you should not hand other people total control over your inner state just because they say something ugly. That mindset can be healthy. It builds toughness, perspective, and self-command. A lot of people would be better off if they stopped treating every insult, joke, or opinion like a wound. At the same time, words obviously can affect people. They can demoralize, manipulate, humiliate, or inflame. So I would put it this way. Words only have the power you give them, but they are not always powerless. That keeps the strength of the saying without pretending language has no impact at all. What you seem to be getting at is that people should have more resilience, especially with optional media and online content. On that, I get your point. Not every unpleasant thing deserves to be treated like actual harm.
Imagine thinking that the streamer made the stream specifically to insult anyone, though, unless they actually insult a specific person, and even then, still sometimes a joke.
Right, that is usually an unreasonable assumption. Most streamers are making content for their audience, their own expression, or their own amusement. They are not sitting there secretly crafting every line to target random strangers who chose to tune in. Assuming this was aimed at me can be a very self-centered way to interpret content. And yes, even when a streamer says something sharp, exaggerated, or insulting, context still matters. Sometimes it is a bit sarcasm, venting, or obvious humor. Not every rude-sounding statement is a sincere attack. The key question is usually pattern and clarity. If someone is plainly singling out a real person to harass them, that is different. But a lot of viewers seem to skip straight past context and jump to personalizing everything. So your point makes sense. It is a stretch to act like a streamer made an entire stream just to insult people who were never even part of the conversation. In a lot of cases, the offended viewer is inserting themselves into something that was not about them in the first place.
On a side note, I just realized that these are not the ones I ordered. I ordered they're like the 20-ounce cans. I just realized that. That's why I have two, because I ordered the 20-ounce cans. I don't like the small ones. You know, like the big ones. That's dumb. I think they're 20 ounces. So anyway, stop pretending to be offended by everything. Literally nobody gives a shit. I'm offended by that. Somebody somewhere said that round and round it goes, man. It's just a hate train. You're choosing to direct hate. Something's bothering you, You're upset, and you're just directing hate. The reason why I know this, the reason why some of us know this, is because some of us have figured it out. Tackled it in life, dealt with it, challenged it, faced it head on. That's all. That's why some of us know. That's all. You get ticked at stupid shit, and you gotta call yourself out and get over it. So, yeah, I mean, like, that's the point. The point is, any other adult that's realized what right and wrong is has done that too. The ones that can't figure out what wrong is, that seem to be choosing the wrong things in life, aren't doing this. That's it. Because when talking about right and wrong, it's really as simple as ethics. Is what you're doing going to eventually cause harm to somebody? On purpose. You know what I mean? Like, are you on purpose? Or are you doing the best you can to not do, things like that, If I could count the number of times that, like, in my life, like, I would, it's absurd. Like, I can't even count it. There's so many times, where there's an adult that drives a vehicle, that has a job, that pays their taxes, that probably votes, that all these things. Are an adult, and I said something to the adult that they found offensive. It's just words. Like calling him an asshole or something like that, like when he's actually an asshole and he deserves it or something like that. Not bullying somebody, but just, like somebody, you're just, kind of giving it to them a little bit because they did something stupid, or something like that. And then they're an adult that, again, drives a car, pays taxes, and they want to fight you because you said words and called them something that they were being. Like, you actually called them out on what they were. They're not mad at you. No, every single person that does that, they're mad at themselves and they're directing it at you. You called them out. They know it. They feel this sense of you calling them out, and instead of owning up to it, they attack you. It was every time that person at that job I told you about that attacked me, we run out of meat. They look at it for some reason like that's their responsibility. So now they have to attack me instead of just moving on with their job and continuing the next thing. They have to make me feel attacked and pressure me because they feel some sort of insecurity about it. Because you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can just move on and You know what I mean? And just like, you get what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense to do something like that. So, you know what I mean? Like, imagine just like personally attacking an employee because you were out of stock of something because you got busy and you just used it up. You know, and every day you just do, like, you got a problem. Like, that is incredible. And that is offensive. That, quite frankly, that is actually the definition of, yeah, I should take offense to that. That actually is offensive. That's something to be offended by. They are actually committing an offense toward you. Regularly, embarrassing you, just holding you, again, they feel an insecurity. They feel a certain type of way about this, but they're putting it on you. Yeah, because you're the messenger, you know what I mean? Did they ask you to check in the back? No, it's actually worse than that. I'm actually talking about like a regular rush where like you would be like ordering burgers and it's like regular like burger meat, and you just run out of it all the time because like you make so many orders. You know, like, you're not really out of it. I'm not talking about running out. And that's not my fault. It's not like I do the ordering. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about running out in the sense that, like, they have to wait, like, 45 seconds to a minute for a few more to come off the grill. I'm not talking about, like, I made a mistake with ordering, or that wasn't me. That ain't what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about every time they say, you know, like the term holding on meat. I'm sure anybody that would work there that knows what that means. That's for some reason my fault. It's not like there's a crap load of orders that, you know, there's 18 pieces in the tray in the cabinet. There's some on the grill, but there's 18 pieces. And there's more burgers on the screen that covers those 18 pieces instantly. And somehow that's my fault. Every time it happens. That's what we're talking about here. So I get where you're coming from, trying to understand that analogy. That's what I'm talking about. That's how ridiculous that is. Like, you get what I'm saying now? Where it's not like it's even my fault, even by any ounce. It's just like regular everyday stuff. Oh, God. Yeah. That person's got a problem. So, you know, that's the time where you you would give it back a little bit if they're doing stuff like that. Then that's the time. Yeah. Obviously. But yeah, that's actually offensive. That's actually, you know, real. That's actually somebody verbally sort of, you know, embarrassing somebody, attacking somebody, making it their fault. For no reason. So, just an example, just an analogy. I'm just using it as an example. It's not, it's just for that. So, but honestly, like, that's why it's so absurd in comparison to think, you know, like I get it, like, everybody, you know, you feel like the center of the universe sometimes when you're watching a stream, or even if you're a news streamer, you probably feel that way too. You have to get over that, because it's not the, you know, nobody's doing that. As I said earlier, as I made the statement earlier, nobody's doing that, you know, obviously, it's they're making streams for the audience, for, you know, just the general audience, and what people are asking for and what they want, and or themselves, you know, as it pointed out, you know, it's the obvious things that would get more views and trending and stuff like that. So, The reasonable take, obviously. Um, so just remember that. It's important to remember that. That it's easy to feel that way. So, remember, if you feel that way, there's a good chance that somebody's regularly making you feel that way in your normal life. You know what I mean? So like, consider who you just talked to or you just interacted with if you feel that way. You know what I mean? You go to somewhere and you're reacting that way, and who did you interact with right before that? Prior to that. And if it's nobody, well then it's that you don't interact enough. You know what I mean? Like you're going for X amount of time and stuff like that, not interacting. Well then it's that you're too secluded, I suppose. I'm not well, what I will say is that, if you're like, like a monk or something like that, like the Shaolin monks and stuff, you have to understand that in order to be like that and be secluded, like all these guys that want to be single and stuff, you have to understand that at a certain point beyond what you maybe even realize, you're going to naturally, there's an instinctual thing built into you to make you feel like lonely and doubtful. So it's important to remember that if you're gonna be secluded and monk-like and stuff like that, that you have to know how to do this in such a way that you're over that thing I just mentioned. Because if you're not, obviously that's the problem. People feeling lonely and stuff like that, just in their own head sort of thing. So you have to be able to know how to believe it or not, almost talk to yourself. Like it's the sort of thing where you it's funny how people think that's actually unhealthy. It's not. I mean, like, there's a point at which it becomes unhealthy, obviously. If it's all you do, I mean, like, there's an extreme, I guess, for everything, but no, you would have to entertain yourself, sort of thing, where you're going lonely and you're going crazy because you're minus that. You don't have anyone to talk to. You are in your own head. That's it. So I think one of the best examples of this, I thought it was brilliant, was Castaway, when Tom Hanks brilliantly was in Castaway, and had Wilson, the the volleyball. That's brilliant because exactly. That is exactly what you would eventually realize. If you're gonna survive, you got to get over that. And that's the only way, because you would naturally have to find a way to have some sort of physical representation of that. You know what I mean? Because having a conversation with yourself, it only goes so far. So that's where he got Wilson, and that was his buddy, So and that if you remember, the point was that helped him. It did. It really improved his just overall will to, you know, continue. You know, yeah, he didn't want to give up basically, and that's important. So, um, obviously you don't have to do this. You know, the idea is that it's learn to interact with people and get along get along with other people. Um, and if people are blatantly nasty and bad for you and stuff like that, I understand that. You know, I understand not wanting to be around that. That is offensive to you. But I'm just I'm just saying things you can turn off, separate yourself from, that aren't even again intended to be at you. Just you know, the person's making content, or it's a TV show or song or whatever, you know. And a lot of times what you have to realize is a song is actually supposed to help you. It's like somebody's story and they're telling you, you know, like this lesson or something like that, and or it's a riddle, or so, you know, something like that, where you got to figure out those pieces and how it fits in your life versus the story, you know, where they you know, they learn this lesson and it's just a story, so you're supposed to learn some from it. Maybe you're supposed to learn not to be that way, you know, like it's like don't do these things or something like that, you know. um, there's a lot of music that's like that, a lot, a ton. So specifically metal's a lot like that. So just realize that. There's uplifting stuff too, but just realize that that's the point of the stuff that's, you know, usually darker and all that. So, um, you know, desensitizing. Oh, let's see. Here, let me. Give me a second. All right, so I figure I'll show you guys this since I talked about it a little bit. I figure I'll show you guys. So this was, oh, let me see here. Where are we at? There it is. So that was Pedal to the Metal. That was before the concert. That was like that's what they have. They have a big banner that before the show starts. So it's pretty cool. So that was before the show started. So that's that's the hat I'm wearing is a Mudvayne hat, actually. Mudvayne was there too, but I'm wearing a Black Label Society shirt and a Mudvayne hat. So let me. So that was that one, and then. That's you know, same sort of thing right before the show. This was actually Hammerstein. So I know it's sort of like the same, but that was at Hammerstein. So just two different pictures there, but that one I actually took at Hammerstein. So that was the one in New York, and then the other one was PA. Let me see. There we go. So that one, that's from the crowd. That was at Pedal to the Metal. So that was a picture I took from the pit. So that was kind of nice. Like I said, I could actually see. There wasn't like all these, like just a million people around where I couldn't see. I could actually see. There's not a million phones in the way, people's hands up, and you know, like I actually see. It's like, man, some of these venues, why can't they angle it down for the pit too? You know what I mean? Like, so, or something, you know. Just can never see. Or the stage isn't high enough, you know what I mean? But yeah, there's that one. So there you go. So yeah, I suppose I have probably a few more, but those are the only ones I actually did find. I mean, if you guys want to see, I have the little bit of video footage I recorded from when I saw Ozzy but missed getting his autograph. I actually do. I actually have a little bit of video footage that I recorded from when I saw Ozzy and missed getting his autograph when he was just because everybody was recording and had their phones and stuff out, so I was like, I'm gonna do it too. So, and he was taking pictures with people. He was signing stuff and getting pictures with them, so it was okay. So I still have that. I did find that. But yeah, I have a few more from that show, from both shows. But yeah, I was just wrong. The one I was just wrong about because the shirt confused me having the 2009 I think on it, right? Wasn't that what it was? That yeah, I mean the Hammerstein was I was right. It was 2010. So I was just wrong about the year. And like I said, that other one was you know, probably the one on the boardwalk. I mean, I can show it to you guys if you really want to see it. It's like it's really bad though. It's a really poor quality recording, is what I should say. Just poor quality. I think it's sideways for half of it until I flip the thing. Okay, it might not play. We'll see. Actually rotate this. Oh, you can't see him yet. Hold on.
Yeah, I'll get that information from you as soon as I get back to my hotel.
There he is. There's Ozzy. There he is. So he's right. There. He's right there. There he is. And then it cut out. But yeah, he's sitting there. Yeah, it's not a very long video.
Yeah, I'll get that information from you as soon as I get back to my hotel. Alright, Dad, I love you.
And then, hang on. Here's another one from Hammerstein. This is from a Hammerstein ballroom. Hold on. That's Zach. There we go. There's that one. And like I said, the picture where I'm at Zach, I think the issue is I didn't take that, so I can't show it. I think that's the issue. I think that's the problem. Like, and you know, I definitely would like to, but I think that's the issue because I didn't take it, so I think that's the problem. But these I took, obviously. So, and then there's there we go. There's a good one. So you can see arms and stuff in that one. That's the usual sort of thing. Lots of people. That wasn't bad though. That was a great venue. I liked that one. But yeah, that was New York. That was Hammerstein. I think he was soloing there. I think that was during his solo. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, there you go. There you go, guys. Just figured I would show you a few of those since we were talking about it. This one's cool. How cool is this one? This one's actually pretty cool. Here, we'll go like this. We'll go minus this dude. We'll do that. There we go. There we go. That's a good one. I'm just like a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, I'm actually pretty close. You know what I mean? There's only like a few people in front of me. I'm actually pretty close. But, you know, it's obviously you just got stage lighting in there, so, you know. But anyway, there you go. I just figured I'd show you that, and since again we were talking about it, and I mean the shows are always amazing, so I still recommend seeing them live. It's nothing like it. But anyway, I think that's it, guys. I think that's all I had to cover for you. But I wanted to get on the stream and give you an update on this because I think it's awesome that this came today and it's so freaking sweet. This is like the coolest. It was just so cool. It is really high quality too. It is quite literally, I think, the highest quality poster I've ever come in contact with. It is very high quality. I'm not just saying that too. And you guys know I've had quite a number of posters that I showed you. I'm not just saying that. I'm really not. I really do think it's pretty much the highest quality poster I've seen, or I've handled, I should say, because it's about the material as well. You know, the construction of the material. But yeah, what a man! It's so cool. It's so cool. All right. Well, anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. See you later.